Hello everybody. A while ago I made a video about how to do UI using Unity events, but time has passed and I think it's time to talk about it again. Unity events really make UI a lot easier than it has typically been in the past, and they allow you to script your UI here in this view rather than requiring you to do a whole bunch of code. So obviously you can do UIs like menus and stuff, but I thought I'd show you something more complicated that we could get our teeth into right away. So this engine here, I'm going to make it so that this slider I've put into the game world turns the engine on and makes it move. Pretty straightforward, right? So how do I do that? Well, first off, I've put the slider into the game world by just setting it into world space and then multiplying it by a small number. And I put it in the right spot and I just created a slider. The slider runs from 0 to 20. And all I need to do is use this Unity event that starts built in right here and select the engine that I am modifying. Engine, and then I can tell it whatever I want. Dynamic float set power. Alright. So obviously I did a little bit of scripting ahead of time because I wanted to have that get set. So what I've just done is I have a script that I've built that can take arguments, and I'm now just going to pass it these arguments. Super straightforward. So that was really basic. Now, if you were trying to build this without using Unity events, you'd have to have some kind of other non-Unity event response to the slider, or you'd have to build your own slider out of objects that you catch mouse clicks on. It would have been annoying. But I'd also like to talk about the opposite. You see, it's also possible for us to create Unity events on scripts that we have created, and then link those into the game world. So for example, this engine turns on and does stuff. Let's go ahead and create a Unity event which happens when this engine turns on. So here is the engine script I've created, and we're just going to include the Unity event using Unity engine.events. And then we're going to go ahead and set up a new Unity event, public Unity event on engine start and on engine stop. Easy enough, right? As it turns out, I already have the logic to detect when the engine starts and stops built. So we'll just edit that and put this in. On engine start.invoke and on engine stop.invoke. So that was pretty straightforward. I mean, that took me like, what, 30 seconds at most. And if we go over to the engine, and we look down at the engine object, you can see that it now has two Unity events, and we can have those do whatever we want. For example, when the engine starts up, let's go ahead and make it so that this pod over here opens, just because it happens to be something that is available to me right now. So just drag, drop, animator, set trigger, open. And we'll just repeat the process when it turns off. So in this case, open actually closes it as well. There's only one trigger. So now I'll hit play. So first things first, this can be opened by this button. I did that before we came along, but let's go ahead and open it by turning on our engine. See? And turning off our engine. Now this makes UI really easy, but it also makes other things really easy. Using this technique, you can create a lot of interactive, responsive components, and you can easily create a tutorial using one-off versions of standard objects. Now, the big problem with this is that there's not really a very good way to do it during runtime. So if you are creating objects algorithmically or anything like that, you may have a rough time of it because you're not going to be able to set these up algorithmically. There are ways around that, but they're kind of annoying. However, if you're just trying to make a basic UI and hook things up here in script view, this is definitely a powerful way to do it, and I thought I would make it real clear in a real fast little video exactly how to do that. Here's hoping that YouTube doesn't blur my voice into Showdown again. Have a good one.